Welcome to Basin Motorsports, home of the wide-body Fox body Mustang known as the Wide Fox. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add a set of tire letters from Custom Tire Letters, step by step, the tools involved, and I'll show you the final result. All right, so when you order your kit for tire lettering from Custom Tire Letters, what you're going to find in the kit is you're going to have all of your tire lettering that's going to come in. Now, you should have probably 8 sets completely of your lettering. So that's going to cover 4 different tires. You've got a bottle of glue that will adhere these to the tire. You've got some cleaner, 2 gloves. You've got a set of instructions there. And this is everything that comes in the kit. Now, in order to install this, I'm going to suggest you get a razor blade, which I'll show you how to use. Acetone is going to be for cleaning, so you'll want to get a bottle of this or a can of this from your local hardware store or whatever you're going to do. That will be for cleaning. This is just some water in a squirt bottle with a couple squirts of dish soap, and I'll show you how to clean with that. On this side, you can see I've got 2 different paper towels. You've got blue shop towels, which do not leave lint, and you've got just a standard paper towel there, which does leave lint, but I'll show you the difference in using those. This is a set of, or a roll of blue painter's tape, which will help hold this on the tire. This is 2-inch wide, a small tape measure, and then a clean microfiber towel that will help clean everything off. So again, this stuff here comes in the kit when you buy it. The rest of this all the way around is stuff I suggest you have on installation so that it helps you along the way. Okay, so now before we get started on this, the instruction card has 6 main steps to it, so I will go through each one of these in depth, and I'll kind of give you some tips I've done along the way that have made this process a lot easier to understand and make it pretty straightforward. Once we have all the 6 steps done, we'll go over the cleaning, any repairs needed, and also how to remove them if you change tires or need to change them to a different vehicle. A couple things to note before we get started. When you look at your tires, you want to make sure your sidewalls are going to be very clean to be able to adhere your tire letters to. So your tire letters are going to go on here. What you want to make sure of is things like this piece right here, this little nipple on the bottom. You want to make sure those are all cut off. You're also going to want to check to make sure that there's no flash on the molding from the tire itself. So 2 of my tires along this ridge here had a big piece of flash that wouldn't allow these stickers to adhere very well. So I just went through with the razor blade, so I would pull this up loose and just kind of slide the razor blade through there. That gave it a nice clean edge there. Now on these nipples itself, this is also from the molding, so you can just pull these straight out, use your razor blade, and just cut those off as best you can. They don't have to be perfectly cleaned off, but you want to take off as much as you can to give yourself a nice flat surface so that the letters will adhere very well to the tire. Another thing I would recommend before you start is use your pair of scissors and take off all this extra material between the bottom of the leather and the carrier that's holding them together. So again, you're going to take off everything here. Just cut that off. And what that's going to do is make it so you can see cleanly where the bottom of the letter is when you start adhering it to the tire. One thing I figured out the hard way is that when this is in the way, it's hard to judge where it is. And I actually had to go back and trim the letters just a little bit to make them flat and clean. So just take your scissors there, cut the bottom of this all the way off, and then you can just trim these up a little even that way. Makes it a little easier. You can leave the top, doesn't matter. All you want to do is clean the bottom edge here. All right, so the last thing before you jump into the instructions is once you have everything trimmed off, or even maybe before you trim it off, you're going to want your vehicle up off the ground so that the tires, whether you're working on the front or the rear itself, are up off the ground so that it freely spins. This is just going to help with ease of installation. You can move it back and forth otherwise. I would just say just put the whole car up on jack stands. If you have a complete set of 4 of them, you can put the vehicle up. Maybe just do the fronts if you need the fronts or the rear. Now, if you're going to work on your drive wheels, obviously you want the parking brake off and the transmission in manual so that the wheel and tire can turn easily. So if it's a rear wheel drive, obviously park brake off, transmission in neutral so the rear wheels will turn. If it's front wheel drive, again, transmission in neutral, so that it will roll. And if it's all-wheel drive, well, basically both. Transmission neutral, park and brake off, that way all four wheels will turn. Just making it easily turn is going to make it great for installation. Now, with all of the surface here prepared with the razor blade cutting off all the little molding teats and the sidewall here, now it's time to clean this. All right, so when I started cleaning this, you can notice how dirty this tire is. So I live on a gravel driveway that's a lot of dirt, so my tires are always, always, always dirty. So the first thing I'm going to do is just use this soap and water here, and I'm going to spray the whole tire down. What it's looking for is really I need from this molding line down, but I'm going to clean from basically the edge here from where it goes to the top surface down. And we're just going to use a lot of water, and the soap in that will help everything run down. Now it's going to make your tire really wet, but at the same time this is going to help get a lot of this dirt off and anything that's stuck to it. The dish soap in there is what really helps out with the dirt. Once it's all wet, you can just wipe it down. And I've used a lot of tire shine on this because I've gone to a lot of car shows recently, so you can notice that it shines up pretty well. And while that's great for keeping the car clean, it makes it really hard to detail and clean for the tire letters. So I'm going to have to use a lot of steps in order to get this cleaned up. So now with the sidewall all cleaned up, notice that I also cleaned up the edge of the wheel itself, the wheel, whatever you want to call it, the rim. The tape is going to actually come down when I strap the tape over to hold the tire letters on. It's actually going to go from the top up here down into the wheel. So make sure both of these are clean. That's why I said from the corner down here. Clean this up, clean up the edge of your wheel so that way your painter's tape, when you put it over, is actually going to have a good place to stick to while it holds your tires in place. Okay, so we'll jump into step number 1 off your instructions. It does say to try and keep the environmental temperature or the ambient temperature in your garage where you're doing this at 65 degrees or higher. That's just going to make everything easy to use, and the glue itself will be into a kind of a running state where it's got some good viscosity, but it's not overly liquid or it's not overly solid. So 65, 70 is a really good number. If you can shoot for that, makes it everything so it goes on very smooth. That way you don't have to worry about your adhesive either being too runny or too solid to where it really doesn't want to come out of the bottle. Now, in order to clean this, you're going to use your acetone. So your acetone can here is going to be used on just a paper towel. Now, I've got both. I've got kind of this regular towel that I've been using because it's a lot cheaper. And I just take one, fold it into basically a small square about this size, and then I just put acetone on there. Now at this point, you're going to want to decide where to put everything before you start wiping down. You can wipe your whole surface of the tire, but really at a certain point, your letters are only going to cover a certain amount. And in between your letters, they don't have to be clean unless you want to do that. So make the choice before you clean. Are you going to put on your letters so you know where to clean to, or are you just going to clean the whole surface? So let's assume, for example, that you only want to clean where you're going to put your tire letters exactly. First, you've got to choose where you're going to put them over. Now, for me, the thing I really want to leave alone is the tire size. Now, that is actually here between this, so I don't want my wheel letters here. On all the other ones where I've been doing some practice, I found a good spot between the S here and the BF Goodrich, because these are BF Goodrich tires. So I've noticed that if I put it about an inch away from the S, and I line it up roughly with the curvature of the tire, again, cutting in the bottom, make sure I can see exactly where it is. I can then take the tape and put that on there. Okay, so here's the other letters on there. You can see the wide, Fox, and the F has a piece of tape, and the O and the X do, and then the Fox logo. So now that I know the exact measurements of where it is here, I can take a piece of tape and basically give myself a little extra. And this tape signifies where I can start cleaning and this signifies where I can stop. So once I take this off, I know from here to here is the only place I need to clean to be able to put these letters on. Alright, so with your letters taken off, you now know where you need to clean on your surface. Now the instructions themselves say with the acetone and the paper towel, this may take up to 10 times cleaning this surface. And you're thinking, 10 times, that's crazy. And I'll tell you, the 10 is a pretty good number. I've had some between 6, 8, and I think I had one about 11. Just because I use a lot of tire shine prior to this for car shows and that. So you just got to do it until it's clean. Otherwise, your tires or your letters itself are not going to stick to the tires very well. So I'll just kind of show you. This will be one here. Now again, acetone is pretty aggressive, and you don't really want to leave it on your skin very much. So if I just did this once, you can see that's what's coming off your tires. So this is dirt, grime, and probably tire shine that I'm trying to strip off of here to give it a good clean surface. So again, you can just go from tape to tape with there. Once it's dirty, just flip it over. And you can kind of do this in chunks. You can do back and forth one time. You can just do little sections here until you're good and then move on, however you want to do it. But just know, you've got 2 marks, beginning and end, do it all. Take your time cleaning. You're going to go through a lot of paper towels, I promise you that. And your acetone right now, I think on the 4 tar I'm doing this on, this is probably half full at least. So you're going to go through a little bit. And remember to glove up. Okay, so once your tire surface is nice and clean, you can then take your microfiber towel and use this, because this does not leave lint, and clean the surface off. The reason I say that is one thing I found is no matter what I used for the shop towel or the white kind of cheapy paper towel, I always left lint behind. And I think it was just because I was using a kind of a wet towel to really rub behind, and I'd always rub through. So this is just an extra precaution. You don't have to do it, but this is just an extra precaution to take off any lint or anything else left behind. And it's just a microfiber towel there. And then I feel like I'm good to go. So that's the end of step 1. Step 2 is very simple. It is to clean the back of the decals themselves. So you can see the green is the stuff that we've shown. The black is the tire or the piece that goes to the tire itself this way. So just take a towel, a paper towel, whatever else, real lightly, just clean it off with acetone, and that way it's ready to go. Now, step 3, I changed a little bit because, well, I don't trust myself a lot of days on doing things without double checking. So step 3 shows you to use the Flex sealant or the Flex adhesive to adhere to the tire. It tells you to put it on before, kind of in your hand, before you put it on the tire. I didn't really feel comfortable that way, so rather than put the adhesive on now and then try to stick it to the tire, I'm going to put my letters back on the tire itself with the tape and make sure everything is aligned perfectly the way I want, then do the adhesive. So it's your choice how you want to do it. I felt more comfortable doing it by sticking them back on and then peeling them off a couple at a time and then putting the adhesive on. Just made me feel better to make sure my alignment was correct versus going all here, sticking it on, then going, oh man, that's not right. So double check yourself. I recommend doing it this way, but it's your choice, your tire, definitely your letters. So with everything put back on now, I've double checked these placements of the letters themselves are exactly where I want them. So now I feel comfortable putting on the adhesive because I know where all the tire letters are going to be. And again, it's going to be your choice. If you want to put it on there and then put it on to make sure it's in the right place, I'd rather double check myself because once this adhesive grabs, and it's pretty aggressive stuff, once it grabs, it's really not easy to come back off. Okay, so one thing I found when you're putting on the adhesive itself is that the bottle loves to work upside down versus at an angle. Now it tells you when you put your tire adhesive on that you don't want to put on too much because then it will kind of ooze out and around. So what I found is if I rotate my tire to the exact letter I want and put it at kind of like a 12 o'clock, I can then peel it back with the tape and then just let it dangle from the edge of the tire or from the wheel itself. You can then take your cap off and use the basically gravity is what you're going to use on the adhesive itself, and then you can just use that with a little bit of squeeze. It will then go right on the tire letter. So as you're kind of putting this on, you'll notice that I'm using the tip, which shows in step 4 kind of shows you how to spread it out. Really, I just found a good way to do it was kind of do the edges to make sure those are going to seal well, and then kind of like scribble in the center back, just kind of back and forth like I was scribbling, filling it in, and that puts a nice bit of adhesive down. Now once this is done, you can see that everything is covered in there. The tape tells you where it's going to go. All you need to do, because you let it come down gravity by 12 o'clock, is you just put it back. Very simple. Put your tape down, and now it says to adhere it down very well. And then you're going to hold it for about 30 seconds. Now I only like to do 2 letters, and the reason is, if I showed you real quick here, 2 letters covers about 2 palm widths for me. So now I can just hold this underneath with my hand and just hold it on there for 30 seconds. So one way I found to make 30 seconds go by pretty easy is, rather than using a lot of pressure, is I would just put my hand over it and lean my head on it. Let my body weight kind of put pressure on it. Then I can just count to 30 Mississippi and it'll be done. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 17 Mississippi, 18 Mississippi, 26, 27 Mississippi, 28, 29, 30 Mississippis. Now after I've counted all my Mississippis, one thing I would just do is double check myself all the way around the edge to make sure it's all the way sealed. The tape's going to hold it on and kind of give a little support, but I just want to make sure that all the adhesive on it is wet out. So just take an extra second, make sure it's all the way pressed down, and then you can go on to your next set of letters. Now how you want to do this is kind of up to you. So I notice you can rotate your tire around so that now if I want to do the O and the X in Fox, what I can do is I can take the tape loose. I can lay this down, and only the O and the X, you can see the X and the O, or O and the X, is the only thing shown. And once you're going to go put it back, you can then peel it up or fold it up, do the same thing, rotate it around, 2 hands together there, put my head on it, counting to 30 Mississippi, and the O and the X will be done. We're going to jump ahead a little bit, and now all the tire letters are done. One thing you'll find that in order to lay them down perpendicular to the tire, you may have to rotate your tire left or right. So to do like the W and the I in the beginning, you may turn it all the way to where it's like a 9 o'clock position. To do the D and the E, you may turn it over to like the 3 o'clock position. That way it folds down nice and easy, and you can do it that way, or all the F and that. So just use that as your reference. Turn it as you need to make it sit flush. That ends step 4, and step 5 is to leave it for 10 minutes before you take off the tape and the transfer carrier here, the plastic basically covering it. At this point, since this is the first one, instead of waiting 10 minutes to go back to it, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the second set, which will go on the bottom set of the tire. So with the tire now flipped around, so obviously the letter's on the bottom, one thing I want to make sure of to guarantee the spacing between this set and the set on the opposite side of the tire is I want to check the gap here between these. So what I've done is I've rotated the tire around, and now my tape measure, I can use that as a reference off the ground. And what I'm looking for is to check to make sure each side measures approximately the same. So this measures somewhere around 10 5/8 inches, and the same thing over here. It measures about 10 5/8 inches. So what that means is that the tip of this is directly parallel to the concrete floor to the tip of this. So now that you know where your edges are even, you can then start laying out your top section. Now it's going to take you a little bit of time to get out or to figure out exactly how it should be matched. But what you're looking for is roughly the same measurement from the tip of either the W, for in my case the W, one letter to the end of the other. What I'm going to do is measure straight up the tire. And what I want to do is make sure that when I measure, the end of this one is the same here, the same vertical distance as this is to around here. By just cutting it straight across, you know that it's going to be parallel, or basically the same but flipped on the opposite side. So on my tire, this is an 18-inch tire. This is just about 10 5/8 there. This is just about 10 1/2 or so. So that's pretty darn close, or it's close enough for me. And what I'll do is I'll add another piece of tape here. Then I can take this all stuff back off. And I also know that this is my cleaning zone. Start and stop for this. So I'll add another piece of tape. I'll take this all back off. I will then clean everything surface here, clean the back of these, do all the adhesive, all the same steps. Basically adhesive, wet it out, hold it for 30 seconds or 30 Mississippis. I'll do each letter, and then at that point, it is done. Everything will be adhered, and then I can move on to the final steps. When you're done with your second set of letters, it's time to go back to the first. Now, step 5 is to fully allow it to sit for 10 minutes on the decal. By jumping to the second set, what you'll find is that completing the second set takes way longer than 10 minutes. So the first set is allowed to dry basically for the 10 minutes plus while you do the second, then you can go back. The next step from there is to take everything off. So you can take your tape off there, and then you're going to take your plastic off of your letters itself. What you find when you go ahead and peel these off is that there's actually 2 sets on here. So one is the carrier itself. You can kind of see the line there. There's one that's a carrier that holds all letters together, and then one that holds or just protects the letter itself. So you can kind of see there's 2 layers to that. And if you're not sure if you have it both off, rub your finger on it. It'll be grippy. Otherwise, if it's not, slides right off. So there again, you can just peel the next one. All the way off. So you can see the difference. This still has a little bit of plastic on it, the second layer. This one does not. All right, now step 6 is to seal the edges of each letter itself. Now this is going to provide maximum durability, so you'll use the Flex sealant itself, wherever I put mine, and I'm going to go over around each edge. Now what I found is similar to when I laid it out to do the adhesive. If I use the edge of where I'm going to put it, I can just use the bottle kind of to use gravity to let it flow right down in the crack. That way I don't put too much on. I don't have to squeeze the bottle to get it down in there, and then it kind of goes all over the place. So I just rotate the tire around to the edge I want, do it all the way here, all the way around, and use it kind of at 12 o'clock down and just rotate it back and forth, whether it's on the top or I can flip it all the way to the bottom to get to this bottom edge. And you're just going to use it just a slight dab all the way across, and this seals the edge from getting water and dirt and everything else in there. And that way the edges don't peel over the lifetime of the tire and holding it on. So with this, it just doesn't take a whole lot of pressure to get it to go on. Gravity really does it for you, and you can just kind of use it going on. All right, once you got your lettering done, what you'll see is it's kind of a clear ring around it where the adhesive is to seal the edges. Now, as this cures up, what it's going to do is it's going to turn more of a translucent where it's touching the tire there. And on the surface, you notice it's got kind of little bubbles here and there where I got a little bit extra on there. If that bothers you, wait about 24 hours for the stuff to dry. What you'll notice on the surface of the letters itself is it will turn to kind of like a creamy color. And at that point, once you let it sit about 24 hours, it hardens enough that you can just take your fingernail and just scratch off the edges there. And that way you can clean the front edge. You've got a little bit there, you've got a teeny bit there, a little touch there. This will all scratch off, and then it will be a clean green or whatever color you choose there. So give it about 24 hours, scratch it off at that point, and then it will be ready to go. Now, once you have the first set completely sealed all the way around the edges, what you'll find is that takes at least 10 minutes or more, usually. As for me, I can then go right into the second set by taking all of the tape off, the clear protectors off, and then I can go in and I can go in and seal it also and get it done. And that will be the end of the installation piece. Once you have everything sealed up, you're just going to let it sit from that point. So once you have everything sealed up, you're going to let this sit for at least an hour, and that's going to allow the adhesive to skim over, especially on these areas there. Again, if it gets on the surface, don't worry about it. Don't wipe it off. Let it cure out for about 24 hours, and it becomes hard and you can scrape it off. I made the mistake on the first tire thinking, I'll just wipe it off immediately, and what I ended up doing was smearing it all over the place, and it just makes a mess. So don't worry about it. Leave it for 24 hours, then go back in when it's hard and scrape it off. It makes it a lot easier. That itself, once it's everything sealed, let it sit for an hour. The installation is done. For cleaning on your tire letters themselves, really easy to take care of. They give you a spray bottle of cleaner here. Now, this is a spray pump itself, so what they recommend is to not spray it on the tire itself. Don't get it all over the paint. I would usually take a rag, run my kind of down over a finger like this, put it right over the bottle, and a couple sprays in there. You can kind of get it wet like this. At that point, then you can wipe it down and keep everything clean. This stuff it's a little aggressive, I'll say, so don't get it on your paint, don't get all over your tires. Just do it by your finger and then use your finger to kind of wipe everything over and keep it clean that way. Very simple to do. It doesn't take very long to take care of it that way for cleaning. Now, if you find that you need to repair any of your decals, whether they're not cleaning very well, or most likely what's going to happen is that if it didn't get sealed properly around the edge or something didn't adhere to the tire, what you'll find is it'll start to peel. You can take your adhesive itself, use a little bit of this, do your best to clean behind it with some acetone and that, kind of give it a really good surface. Reseal it with this, and you'll find that you should have some extra sealant or the adhesive after the whole installation. You can kind of see my bottle there is right about here, somewhere in there. So I actually have some left from doing the whole kit on 4 different tires. You can also purchase another bottle of this. It's not very expensive. Just get it straight through Custom Tire Letters. You can order it that way. And then when it comes time to removal, either you want to take them off or maybe switch them to a different car, or you're switching tires and need to put it on a new set of tires. What you can do is you can peel the edge, grab it with a pair of pliers is what they recommend, and then just peel it off. Now be careful with them. Don't scratch them up too much, but just use a good amount of tension on there. Just kind of edge them off one letter at a time, and then the installation process will be a little bit more difficult because all the letters will be uniquely placed. They won't have the carrier to them themselves, but you can also probably use some tape to kind of put them back together. The installation is going to be the same for a new set. Again, prep the tire, make sure there's nothing in the way, clean, place, adhere, seal, and then let it set for about an hour. So if you have any questions on any of this installation, or you felt like I jumped around or anything, go ahead and leave me a comment down in the section below. Check the description if you're interested in a set for yourself, or maybe as a gift to someone. There is a link to CustomTireLetters.com down in the description. You can look at all they have available. They have different color sets available. This is obviously something unique to me, and is also definitely unique to the car itself, called the Wide Fox. They have brand names available. They have all kinds of different colors available, different sets where you can do backgrounds in that versus just individual letters. If you can imagine it, I bet they can probably put it together for you. Again, CustomTireLetters.com. There's a link in the description. You guys need anything, you know where to find me. Otherwise, Basin Motorsports. We'll see you next time.
We about to turn it on.